Hacks likes this very much.
Welcome to
Coffee with Toffees.
Let's do this!
Good evening and welcome to a new episode of Coffee with Toffees on this evening of June 6th. Now we are going to bring you the week in review as we do every Friday or Saturday, sort of depending on how the schedule looks. And we're going to give you the updates on all the action that's been going on in the Dotaverse. And that starts right now. But before it does, I do want to give a big shout out to our sponsors for the show, Dotacasters.com. The absolute best place to go if you want to get a game cast, whether by an amateur or a pro. You can stop by there. It's as cheap as $5 a match to get somebody to cast your game. It makes it way more fun to watch. I do it with all of my team games for my amateur league. I certainly enjoy it. And there's names, some pretty big names on there that you can get to cast your games. You can find Sir Action Slacks as well as many others, including Pimp Muckle himself, to do a game cast for you. So check it out. There's some great stuff on there. Other sponsors are Razer, the makers of the finest peripherals in esports. They've equipped the entire show, and we're a huge shout out to them. And obviously to Betway.com. If you believe that you have the Dota knowledge and you know what teams are great and when, then go to Betway.com. Place your bets. It's real cash. It's for adults only. And it is the safest way to go ahead and make money off of your Dota knowledge. That said, let's get right into the show. It's going to be a short one today. It's been a pretty quiet week in terms of Dota. Pieces of news that have come out. The first thing we're going to talk about is that First Departure has made a roster change. It's the first roster change we've seen since Mouse Sports had a indeterminate departure by Qualifier as we wait for him to decide if he's coming back or not. TC obviously standing in for them. But First Departure has decided to change it up. They brought back Polasan, Hana, and Shibix, who have been part of the team in the past. So their new roster looks like Luby, Miracle, Chibix. I think it is said Chibix. I know he's got a 33 on there. Hana and Polasan. Now, they are not in the TI. They did not make it through qualifiers. These are guys who will be playing in the majors and a couple of other tournaments going forward. Most importantly, the new Join Dota League that will be starting up shortly. Now, that's honestly it for team news. Besides the change up at Mouse and the fact that First Departure has made their changes, not a lot else happening, as you can imagine. We have had some shakeups. We've had some folks talking about changing, but we probably won't see a lot of that till after TI. Now, so what we do need to talk about is what's going on with the tournaments right now. The big tournament, there's two major tournaments going on as we speak, and that is the Mars Dota 2 League as well as the Join Dota League. So we're going to start off talking about the Mars Dota 2 League. Basically, it was a unique format. It was in live LAN with a single elimination round robin, so a best of one basically. Top 4 teams from each group of 8 advanced to the playoffs. And then from there, there's no losers bracket. It is straight up feud to the death, best of 3s. Loser goes home until you get to the final, which is going to be a best of 5. So the Mars Dota 2 has been going on for a couple of days. As of last night, Team Secret advanced over Cloud9 2-0, and they've been having a really good 2-0 run, by the way, in this tournament. Advanced over Cloud9, and they will go to the grand final against Team Empire, who beat Team VG 2-1 to get there. So Empire showing that they have no signs of slowing in this patch. They had a rough start to the tournament, but have done very well since they got to the bracket. VG knocked down to the losers, or the third place game, I should say. So it will be Team Empire versus Secret in the best of 5 grand final, which takes place in about 4 hours if you're watching the show live. If you're watching on the podcast, it happened probably last night while you were sleeping. So that'll be a good one. Big prize there. I believe that our prize pool is over $240,000 for the winner, and it is on a LAN in China. Has been a lot of fun so far. Vici and Cloud9 obviously playing for that 3rd and 4th place decider. So that is the Mars Dota 2 League. The other big one happening right now is the X Games. Everybody knows that the X Games, I've been talking about it a lot. It's good for us that they are getting mainstream coverage by a tournament like the X Games Games that's going on in Austin as we speak. It's been an interesting tournament so far. The format has been changed compared to Season 1. So when it comes to the offline stage, the round robin will be replaced with the 2 GSL double elimination bracket style groups where the top 2 advance. The playoffs are being playing in a single elimination best of 3 format, so very similar to what we're seeing going on in the Mars League right now. As far as Stage 1 went, and that wrapped up yesterday, Alliance and London Conspiracy advanced 2-0 and 2-1. In fact, actually, I think that started off, yesterday and a little bit today. Evil Geniuses and Summer's Rift both got knocked out in the Stage 1 groups. So Evil Geniuses lost their game to Alliance, and then they lost to London Conspiracy today. They only beat Summer's Rift, who was actually also knocked out. So a tough day for Evil Geniuses. A lot of folks talking about the situation they find themselves in, the beginning of the downfall. They're best of ones, folks. It's hard to take a lot away from that, but we can all agree Evil Geniuses has been off of their game in this particular tournament. In Group B, Ninjas in Pajamas and Fnatic advance to Virtus Pro and Mouse Sports. Fnatic, as a reminder, is Team Malaysia. Fnatic bought the rights to Team Malaysia about a week ago. So that is a interesting development that Virtus Pro and Mouse Sports both knocked out. Mouse Sports going 0-2, so not having a great go again, and Mouse Sports just in a lot of trouble, it feels like, based on the way that things have been going in terms of their play. Kudos to Malaysia getting through and Ninjas in Pajamas for showing that they are as good as a lot of folks thought they were going into TIs. Stage 2 started out, Alliance played Fnatic and beat them 2-1, so Malaysia was knocked out of the Stage 2 groupings, and will be playing in the 3rd place match. Alliance beat them 2-1 and advances to the grand finals, so that's pretty cool. It's great to see Alliance back in form. Obviously did not make it to TI, and a lot of folks are saying it doesn't feel like TI without Alliance, and I sort of feel that way a little bit too. Alliance has been a staple since I started watching Dota, and it's good to see them doing well, so kudos to those guys. Ninjas in Pajamas and London Conspiracy, I believe, are either playing right now or be playing in the morning based on what the time looks like, and whoever wins, most likely, based on what we've seen lately, will be Ninjas in Pajamas, advancing to go up against Alliance in the grand finals. That said, it will end very, very soon. X Games coming to a close this weekend. It's been a fun event. It feels to me, I'll be honest, like it hasn't been quite as entertaining in terms of production as the last Join Dota Pro League was, but it has still been a very good tournament and a lot of fun to watch. Now, the last tournament we're going to talk about is, I'm going to do a little wrap-up for those of you who maybe didn't catch all of the TI international stuff. The qualifiers have all ended. We know who's going to TI at this point. We know who's in the wildcard runs. Now, it's important, before we start that, I do want to bring up something, and this is a bit of news, a bit of crazy news, is that the TI prize pool has surpassed any esports prize pool in history. We're at $12.2 million on the prize with over a month to go until this thing starts. So there is still a long way off and a lot more money to come in because the Immortal 3 chests still haven't come out. Valve surprised us with something new called the International Collector's Cache, which, again, we didn't expect. We didn't know it was coming. It had amazing sets in it, and it shows that Valve is committed to making more money off of this tournament, whether for them and for, obviously, the prize pool. And another one could come out at any point, which would give a huge boost, because we saw the cash come out, and the prize pool was at $10.6 million. By the end of 2 days after that new cash came out, it had risen to 12.2. So that means that that individual chest was worth, if you take away some of the regular progression we've seen over the last few days, somewhere in the ballpark of $1.2 million from what I figured out in terms of new revenue. So every time that they release one of those, there's a chance that we're going to see that big of a growth period on a short cycle. We don't even know what the long term is off of this new cash, so it's hard to tell. But it seems like that $15 million stretch goal that we talked about from the get-go for the big prize for TI is a reality. So this makes the qualifiers even more important. I want to pull this up real quick. So you guys, if you're watching on the podcast, you can see the comparison to where we were last year. So at the end of day 36 this year, which was yesterday, our prize pool, or okay, I should say at the end of day 36 last year for 2014, the prize pool was 9.4 million. At the end of day 36 this year, the prize pool was at 11.9 million. So that means we're well over $2 million ahead of the target, and we continue to beat that that gap. So it's going to continue to get bigger and bigger as we move forward. So pretty exciting stuff. Should make for a great international tournament. Now, let's talk about what actually happened in the internationals. We'll run it through the different areas. EU Alliance was performing not great, and for a SC was doing good. So it was a big surprise to see Alliance, I think, not get through. We talked a little about that. However, here's the two who got the spots. TI spot confirmed, will be playing in the main event. Not Natus Vincere. They've got a really great thing going with art style, doing a phenomenal job. They took a little bit of punch in the Mars League, but don't think about that as a negative performance for them because art style could not get his visa to go through, so he was not on site for that actual event. So that makes sense as to why they didn't do good in Mars League. That said, they did phenomenal in the qualifiers. They got that top performance spot, and I'm really proud of how they've done. Wild card, interesting for me, a little bit off guard. I did not predict them in the top 4 at all, and that is Vega Squadrons. They knocked out some really tough competitors and have secured their position in the wildcard playoffs. For the Southeast Asian scene, Korean Dota has come out, well, I don't want to say out of nowhere, but it wasn't the top Dota groupings. It wasn't what I would have considered the top region to beat at the time of qualifiers start, but it sure has changed in a year, right? Since last year, I don't think anybody would have said Korean Dota is going to be number 1 in SEA. Big surprise, MVP Hot 6 takes the number 1 position. In fact, if you guys don't know, because you probably don't follow the SEA scene too much, MVP Hot 6 is the B team for MVP. So Phoenix is their main team. It's what they're all known for. Phoenix is kind of the A team, has been much better known internationally. And Hot 6 actually beat Phoenix. So Hot 6 will be going into the TI spot. Phoenix will be in the wildcard playoffs. That said, both teams owned by MVP make it into the TI, so they've got to be excited about that. The big surprise for me, the team that I did not expect to get knocked out, that I thought would actually be on the top of the qualifiers, was Rave. They didn't even get in, so Rave knocked out completely. MVP 1 and MVP 2, Hot 6 and Phoenix, both go through to the main event. America, most of you guys probably know what happened there. We actually had Complexity on the show earlier this week, but Mouse not qualifying, pretty big deal there, and a lot of folks more surprised, even more surprised than Mouse not making it in, that Complexity got the number 1 position. If you haven't heard about it, check out the show from 2 days ago. We actually got the entire team, or I'm sorry, most of the team on the couch at their training house to talk about how they got ready for it, what they did to prepare, and it was a very interesting interview, so make sure you check that one out. But the top spot goes to Complexity Gaming. The second place, the wild card, who I think were a little bit of a long shot due to some issues that came up before the camp, not being able to play a lot during scrims, etc., is the North American Rejects. So 2 North American primary teams make it into TI. Complexity goes to the main event. North American Rejects has a qualifier to fight their way through, but I think that it should be better for them with the way that we've seen the other qualifiers go. I think MVP Phoenix and Vega are both beatable for North American Rejects. The question I have is, can they get through the Chinese wild card? As far as the Chinese go, we can all pretty much say that I think Hyper Glory team should have been in it, and they underperformed. Definitely thought CDEC would do well, but not as well as they did. I thought HGT would be replacing them. That said, TI spot guaranteed goes to eHome. Not a huge surprise there. They were the team that I thought would probably pull out in terms of the Chinese scene. But the surprise for me, wildcard spot goes to CDEC. They're a very good team. I did not think that they were better than Hyperglory, but they were definitely close. They proved me wrong. They come through in the second spot, and I got to be honest, I think that when we talk to North American Rejects about advancing from the wild card, their biggest difficulty is going to be CDEC, and that's going to be a tall order for them. So that, to be completely honest with you, if I summed up the TI qualifiers, it would be unpredictable. It was very difficult to know who would win. It was very difficult to track as far as performances versus what I was expecting them to do. So it was a very interesting tournament, and I think should make us not so much as excited about TI, but you should be very excited about majors going forward, because it means there's a lot of teams who are competitive and who are looking to earn their spot in the major spotlight that just haven't had a chance to do it yet. So some of these non-recognized or a little bit lower tier, quote-unquote, international teams like, say, Complexity, who had a hard time getting respect from the Tier 1 teams, has shown us that they have the work, they have the ethic, and we can see a big group of competitive teams coming out to play in the future. MVP Hot 6, a good example of that. CDEC all ready to step forward and show themselves in the majors. So it should be a good year of Dota based on what I saw in the qualifiers. I didn't get to watch a ton of the qualifiers. I don't know if I did mention it on the show. I was actually in San Francisco for the Collegiate Star Ladder Championships. I had the pleasure of casting that with What Is Hip. A big shout out to UC Berkeley, who did a wonderful job. The guys obliterated their competition. There were some issues with some of the connection stuff, but at the end of the day, Razer and CSL put on one hell of an event. I loved being at it. It was really cool to see. I've tweeted out some pictures if you want to check those out on my Twitter, Toffees_Dota2 over there. It was really cool, a really great time. And again, shout out to UC Berkeley, who played far and away at the top of their game, showed that they knew what they were doing, and honestly, these are guys who I would not be surprised to see playing on pro teams over the next couple of years in the world of Dota if they stick with it. So that was pretty neat to see. That's pretty much it, guys. That's the show. It's not a lot to talk about. We've hit that sort of wind down where all the big tournaments are wrapping up. Everybody's sort of got their bits in. A lot of the teams are getting prepped out to go to their training camps. We got ESL coming up, and that really is, as far as I can remember, going to be one of the last big ones we see before the big show. So we are going to probably try to get some power rankings out this week so I can come back and talk to you guys about where the teams all stand after the crazy events like the EG upsets that have been going on right now, and obviously talk about Mars Final, which I think Empire Secrets can be a really great show to watch. So if you watch a game this week, that's the one I think to watch. Empire has been a masters of this patch, and Secret is just a masters of the draft and the playstyle, so it should be a pretty good clash between two titans of 6.84. That said, a big thank you to the fans. We appreciate you listening. If you're on the podcast, make sure you review it so we can get some featured podcasts. That would be wonderful. A big shout out to Razer, Dotacasters.com, and Betway.com. We appreciate your support of the show. It means the world to us. And if you guys can help support them, it helps support us because they're supporting small content creators. So we want to support them as websites and people who support esports. That said, it's been a wonderful spending the evening with you guys. If you want to support me directly, go to patreon.com/Toffees, and I contribute $1, $2, whatever you want. We got some stretch goals. We've got some rewards. I'm making the hats to come out pretty soon, and we'll sell those here on the site. But it has been great spending the day with you guys. I will see you back at the next week. I'm working on getting some interviews and some stuff lined up after we see Mars and MLG sort of fall out. But keep in mind, the next couple of weeks a little bit slow as everybody just sort of gets ready for the big TI. That said, we'll be back next week. I look forward to hanging out with you. And as always, guys, Toffees out.